as you mentioned last night, thinking about the next generation, a replacement, or things like that, how have you seen that done well or poorly? And how do you think about that in a season where you might be closer to the end than to the beginning?
When I was a young man, they asked me to speak at youth conventions. Now they ask, how are you going to finish well?
That was somebody else. That wasn't me.
I've increasingly seen the importance of 2 Timothy 2:2. The things that you have received from faithful men pass on to a new generation who will be able to teach others. So you got 4 generations there. 4 generations in one verse. And that means that there needs to be, the forms of call in the Scripture are diverse. There's not just one kind of thing. For example, in 1 Timothy 3, if anybody desires the work of an elder, he desires a good thing. Okay, so then these are the qualifications. So it's coming, the initiation is starting from the person's own interest. And sometimes it starts with the initiation from a church and so on. But in 2 Timothy 2:2, it starts at the initiation of somebody who sees potential in somebody and taps them on the shoulder. And my own initial call to the ministry, I was studying chemistry, worked for the government in air pollution. I planned to go and do a PhD at a university in the U.S., moving down from McGill in Canada, in organic synthesis. And then the minister of the church that I was attending tapped me on the shoulder and said, I'd like you to be my assistant this summer. And I said, there are quite a lot of college and careers age young people in this church. You got me confused with somebody who's heading for ministry. I'm not heading in that direction. He said, no, you're the one I want. So we had a 2-hour argument, and I won. I didn't go and help him. But that was the first step in what became a long process to make me rethink things. And what he was doing was 1 Timothy 2:2. So I would argue that in a congregation of almost any size, there ought to be 1 or 2 wise people, pastors and others, who are looking around constantly and are quite prepared to say, what, you're a medical doctor? Give up your small ambition. We like you in the pastoral ministry. What, you're a janitor? But you read quite a lot. It's about time that you read some serious stuff. I think you got potential. I want you to teach a Sunday school class. I'm going to supervise you, but I want to test your gifts because I want you for the ministry. And so, and in other words, you need to be aggressive in finding people and tapping them on the shoulder. And then within that framework, being serious about mentoring. How often does Paul say, watch me? The things that you have seen in me, you do also. Be imitators of me as I also am of Christ. And so some of us have a kind of fake humility. The part of Christian discipleship is going around and actually saying, watch me. It sounds so counterintuitive, so arrogant to say, but that's apostolic. That's apostolic. I want to show you what family devotions look like. You come and have them with me to a young person. You join our family for 6 weeks. There are things that can be done to there are a lot of Christian discipleship factors that are caught as well as taught. And so the mentoring church is a church where there's a lot of good habits already. And where there's an openness to other people who are brought in to see what's going on, and those things are learned and caught and passed on to a new generation. Where you have isolated individual Christians preserving their isolation and their privacy, it's very, very difficult to pass things on to a new generation. So there's a whole culture that needs to be invoked in a church of mentoring, living things out, and modeling things for another generation. I don't know if that's of any help or not.